Yorkshire, England, a land steeped in history, legends, and unexplained mysteries. Among its many enigmatic locations, none are quite as eerie as Ilkley Moor, a vast expanse of rugged hills and rolling mist, where folklore speaks of strange lights in the sky, shadowy figures lurking in the fog, and bizarre encounters beyond comprehension. But in December 1987, Philip Spencer, an off-duty police officer, would unknowingly step into one of the most perplexing and chilling UFO encounters in modern history. It wasn't just the strange photograph he captured. It wasn't just the missing time. It was the sense that something, or someone, had chosen him for a reason. This is his story, a tale of fear, fascination, and an encounter that defies all logic. It was just before dawn on December 1st, 1987, when Philip Spencer set off across Ilkley Moor. He had taken a shortcut through the fog-covered expanse to visit his father-in-law in a nearby village. The moor was a harsh, unwelcoming place, especially in winter. The air was cold, and the thick mist swallowed everything beyond a few meters. Yet, Spencer wasn't afraid. He was carrying a camera, hoping to capture the strange lights that locals had reported flickering in the skies. He also brought a compass, a precaution for navigating the treacherous landscape. But as he trudged across the moor, something felt off. The silence was unnatural. No wind, no distant bird calls, just the dull crunch of frost beneath his boots. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw movement. He turned his head and froze. On a nearby ridge, partially obscured by the mist, stood a small figure, no more than 4 feet tall. At first, he thought it was a child, but then his eyes adjusted. It was not human. The being stood motionless, watching him with huge black almond-shaped eyes. Its skin was pale grayish-green, its arms longer than they should be, its fingers abnormally large. And then, it raised one hand in a gesture, almost as if it were telling him to stop. A cold wave of fear rushed through Spencer's body, but his training as a police officer kept him calm. Slowly, he lifted his camera and snapped a photograph. At that moment, the creature turned and bolted up the hill. Adrenaline surged through Spencer. He raced after it, his breath ragged in the freezing air. Reaching the top of the incline, he skidded to a halt. What he saw next would haunt him forever. Hovering above the hill was a craft, metallic, domed, and completely silent. It wasn't a helicopter. It wasn't an airplane. It was unlike anything Spencer had ever seen. Just as he raised his camera to take another photo, a brilliant flash of light engulfed him. The world went black. When Spencer regained consciousness, he was standing exactly where he had been before. The craft was gone. The strange being was gone. But something was wrong. The sky was too bright. The sun had risen far higher than it should have. Panicked, he checked his watch. 10 a.m. But that was impossible. He had left home at 7 a.m. His journey across the moor should have taken just over an hour. Yet 3 hours had vanished. A shiver crawled down his spine. Where had the time gone? His hands trembled as he reached into his pocket for his compass. The needle was spinning erratically before finally pointing in the wrong direction. Something had happened to him. But what? Determined to find answers, Spencer developed his film. When he saw the photo, his blood ran cold. There it was, the small humanoid figure, just as he remembered. Wanting expert validation, Spencer sought out Peter Huff, a renowned UFO investigator. At first, Hull was skeptical, until he met Spencer in person and examined the photograph. The photo was real. There was no sign of tampering. Kodak Laboratories later confirmed that the negative was authentic, not superimposed or doctored in any way. But the strangest discovery came when scientists examined his compass. Its polarity had been reversed, something that only happens when exposed to an intense magnetic field. This wasn't just an illusion. Something very real had occurred that morning on Ilkley Moor. In the following weeks, Spencer began experiencing disturbing dreams. In them, he saw shadowy figures standing over him, whispering in a language he could not understand. More troublingly, he started to remember things he shouldn't. At the suggestion of Huff, Spencer agreed to undergo regressive hypnosis. Under hypnosis, the lost 3 hours came flooding back. He recalled being paralyzed, his body floating off the ground. The creature led him like a balloon toward the waiting craft. Inside, he found himself in a bright, sterile room. 3 more beings observed him, their large black eyes unblinking. Then, a voice spoke to him, not with words, but directly into his mind. Do not be afraid. Spencer was then shown 2 films. The first depicted mankind's self-destruction, war, pollution, famine. The second film, however, remains a mystery. Spencer was explicitly warned never to speak of it. Even under hypnosis, he refused to reveal its contents. Spencer never sought fame or fortune. In fact, Philip Spencer wasn't even his real name. He refused to be in the spotlight, avoiding media attention. Skeptics argue that his story was too perfect, pointing out how absurd it seemed that extraterrestrials would choose a random policeman to receive such an ominous warning. But no one can explain the verified authenticity of his photograph, the reversed polarity of his compass, the 3 missing hours that remain unaccounted for. Even decades later, the case remains open for debate. Some dismiss it as an elaborate hoax. Others believe it is one of the most compelling UFO encounters ever recorded. And what about the second film? Why did the beings show it to him? What was in it that he refused to reveal? Perhaps the truth is far more terrifying than we can imagine. And perhaps, on a misty morning in Ilkley Moor, they are still watching. Do you believe in Philip Spencer's story? Or is this just another unsolved mystery lost in the fog?